David ran up the steps of the Institute, 2 at a time, and hurried towards his office through the echoing corridors, where the usual watchguard sauntered on patrol. "Morning, Jones." "Good morning, Doctor. Pretty early, aren't you?" "Wednesday's my busy day." He settled at his desk, miserably conscious of the open doors and curious eyes behind him. Opened his briefcase, then glanced at his wristwatch, more than an hour before his interview with Leader Marley. Spreading some data sheets before him, he looked at them blankly as he tried to order his thoughts. His eyes were ringed with dark depressions, for he had no sleep. There had been so many things to plan for, so many arrangements to make. It was possible, of course, that this morning's talk would turn out to be mere routine. There remained several weeks of freedom, but there might be only a few hours. He shrank from the complexity of the problem before him. He was a research man, devoted to his test tubes and his culture growths, and would have been happy to never face any problem beyond them. He had a moment's revulsion at the unfairness of the fact that a simple experiment in the lab, in addition to a man's knowledge of the universe, should have plunged him, against his will, into a situation far beyond his ability to handle. There had been, as Carl pointed out, the alternative of turning the SDE over to the leader. That would have absolved him of all responsibility, but that was the trouble, he thought. Responsibility could not be confined to squiggles in his notebook, where those squiggles might affect the whole society. "Dr. Wong." He jumped and turned around hastily. "Lee, what in the world?" She stood in the doorway, glaring at him, breathing heavily as though she were trying to hold back sobs. Slowly, she tottered to the desk and sank down into her chair by the stenograph. "You double-crosser," she whispered. He looked quickly at the doorway, but the guard had not come back. Leaning forward, he questioned her fiercely. "What are you doing here? They told me yesterday that several people had come down with attacks of Blue Martian. Why aren't you in the hospital with the others?" "Because I wasn't sick." "But I gave you—" "Imagine how I felt," she raced on, watching Dr. Haslam start having a chill, hearing Dr. Foray complain about his awful headache, and listening to Dr. Hudson dial intercom and call for a doctor. And all that time I was waiting for something to happen to me, and nothing did. What have you got against me, Dr. Wong? That you infect all the others and only pretend to do it to me. I don't want to grow old any more than they do." "But I wasn't pretending. Quiet. And now let me think." He waited until the watchguard passed by the door, then raised his head. "Look here, Lee. Evidently the infection didn't take. This is what must have happened. That treatment I gave you 10 years ago must have made you permanently immune to the Blue Martian, and the antibodies it formed in your cells simply protected you against this new invasion of the virus. It never occurred to me that the immunity would last so long, but don't worry, I'll find a way." She looked suspicious. "What do you mean?" "I mean that there's no reason why Blue Martian should be the only vehicle for giving you SDE. There must be other viruses that will work equally well. It's only a question of finding one." "And how long will that take you?" "How long does anything take in research? Maybe a week, maybe a year, and maybe 10. I can't wait, Dr. Wong. I'm 35 now. I'm growing older. What good will a long life do me If it only preserves me as the middle-aged woman I'll be by then. And all those years that I'll be getting older and older, there'll be Tanya, lively and pretty, to remind me that I was once like that too. I can't face it. The watchguard will hear you. Haggard-faced, he watched her shaking her shoulders, hearing her muffled sobs. You're a criminal, Dr. Wong. It was a crime, what you did to Tanya and me. I didn't realize in the beginning, or I'd never have touched the thing. I know it now, even better than you do. But what can I do? She looked up and wiped her eyes. Her mouth set hard. I know what I can do. I can report you to the leader. What good will that do? You know how terrible you feel now about being left out? Though I swear I never meant it to be like this. But just try to imagine, if you report me so that Leader Marley gets the secret of the SDE, then thousands of people will be put in just the same situation you are in. You're the only person suffering, but then there'd be hundreds of thousands of millions. Surely you wouldn't want to have that on your conscience. Do you think I care? You wouldn't when you felt calmer. You're all wrought up, ill. Let me send you home. Promise me you'll go home quietly, talk it over with Tanya, and not say anything to anyone else. I'll think of a way out for you. Just be patient. Patient? He thought of calling Carl Haslam. Carl would know best how to deal with her, how to bring her back to reason. He reached towards the intercom, then dropped his hand in despair. Carl was in the hospital with Foray and Hudson, shivering with the cold of blue Martian fever. But he had to get her away. He pressed the intercom dial. Dr. Wong speaking. Miss Hajinovic is ill and is being sent home. Please send an air cab for her at once. He helped Lee to her feet and spoke pleadingly. Promise you'll be good, Lee. The fury in her eyes nearly knocked him down. Without a word, without a gesture, she walked out.